Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning at this Your Overseas Home webinar, focused today on our top tips for your property viewing trip to Italy. My name is Hannah Armstrong, and I'm one of the team here at Your Overseas Home, and you may have also engaged with our sister business, Property Guides. Our main role as a business is to help you realise your dream of owning property in Italy. Whether that's by reading our buying guides, attending our events such as this, or connecting you with industry experts, we want to make this process as safe and enjoyable as possible for you. So to give you the very best tips and advice before you head over to Italy, I'm joined by three buying experts today who will share their local knowledge and insights with us. First up, we will hear from Paul Harris of Smart Currency Exchange. Second, Monica from Buckles Solicitors. And lastly, Daniel from D&G Property Advice. For those of you listening in live today, if you have any questions for our panelist, please do use the questions tab on the right-hand side of your screen. Pop the questions in there and we will get as many of them answered as possible. We've also got a question that we would like to put to you, our audience, today. So if you could head to the polls section and just answer that quick question about your viewing trip plans, it will really help us to tailor today's session. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Paul Harris from Smart Currency Exchange. Now, Paul's been working in the foreign exchange industry and supporting international property buyers for over 10 years now. He and his team are based here in the UK, and they regularly come to events like this and speak at property events. So he's really well placed to answer today's questions. So welcome, Paul. I'd like to start by asking you to give us a little bit of background into Smart Currency Exchange and how you can help our viewers.
Sure. Thanks, Hannah. Good morning, everyone. Still morning. Smart Currency. So we are currency exchange specialists, and our main aim in your buying journey is to help you transfer your funds over into Italy in the most cost-effective way possible, and obviously to make sure that we get the timing right as far as the markets are concerned. We've helped over 40,000 people in exactly the same position as yourself over the last 15 years to afford and transfer money to buy property overseas. And Italy is a huge country for us as well. So we have a lot of specialism within our team that can assist you with the buying process over there as well. We do recognise that everyone's requirements are completely different. So we want to make sure that we understand everything about you, about the journey and how you're budgeting to really give you the best service possible and give you that real tailored approach. You may have already spoken to us already, but if not, hopefully this presentation will help give you a bit more insight into what we can do.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you for that intro. Now, we're obviously thinking about viewing trips today in this session. When is the best time for customers to start thinking about their currency? Is that something that kind of comes at the end of the buying process, or should they be thinking about that when they're also thinking about viewing properties?
The actual mechanisms of moving the money does come quite late. Normally, typically, you'll have been looking for property, you'll have been doing some searches, viewing trips, etc. And then that's where you start thinking about actually physically moving it. But we recommend to speak to us as soon as you start the process. So you may have already started looking at properties online, may have engaged with some agents, and then at that point you'll be looking at certain types of property, certain amenities near the property, certain types of bedrooms, certain types of property. But everything that you'll be looking at will always have a price as well associated to it. So that price will be in euros. So we can help you straight away. So you'll have a budget that you want to, most of you will have a budget that you want to stick to. And let's say at the moment, everyone's based in the UK, so it'll be a sterling budget. We can help you understand if that sterling budget will be enough to achieve the type of property that you're looking at and the price range you're looking at. So yeah, it's like I said, the mechanisms come fairly late, and actually physically transferring it is one of the last steps in the process. But yeah, we can help you right from day one, just to help you understand what you can afford.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Paul. That's really helpful, and it's something perhaps you don't often consider. So it's really useful to know that you can be starting thinking about currency as early as possible. Thank you. Now, I know from dealing with Smart in the past that there's multiple different products and options for different types of transfers. Can you talk the customers through the sort of different product offerings that you have?
Sure. So there's a few popular products that we offer when it comes to the actual property purchase part of the journey. Two main contracts that we offer, spot and forward contracts. So spot contract is, say for example, you wanted to transfer money today. You would agree a price for us today, send us the money, and then we would forward out the euros to wherever they needed to go. It's very quick. We can often get money into Italy the same or next working day. So really quick, really quick service that we can offer, which makes it very popular. Sometimes there are time constraints with getting money over to Italy for various different reasons, and we can really assist you with that and get the money over quickly. And obviously, if you're looking to do a quick purchase, that could also be possible as well to use a spot contract. The most popular product that we offer is a forward contract. Now, forward contract gives you a little bit more peace of mind and a bit more security for your budget. So I'll explain what a forward contract actually is. So, say for example, you're on a viewing trip today, and you find your dream property, fall in love with the property, sign on the dotted line, and at that point you agree on a price in euros. So that price is fixed, so you know how much the property is going to cost you in euros. The one thing you don't know actually exactly at that point is how much that property is going to cost you in, let's say you're based in the UK, in pounds sterling. So you've agreed your price in euros. We can then help you understand what the exchange rate is at the time, how much that's actually going to cost you in pounds sterling. So typically we would sort of assume that there's going to be about a 3-month period between when you sign and when you complete. Obviously, get the legal things sorted out in the meantime. Various different other aspects that can take that amount of time. A forward contract basically fixes today's exchange rate if that's a rate you're happy with, and you don't have to pay for the full contract until completion. So you are happy with today's rate, we fix that rate for you. You pay a 10% deposit, which just secures the exchange rate, and then upon completion you pay the remaining balance of the 90%. So it's not a fee, we don't charge a fee for that. It's just a deposit which comes out of the total amount of the contract. That contract is popular because at the point you agree the contract, like I said, you've agreed your price in euros, and then you're agreeing your price in pound sterling as well. So you know your budget's secure and you know how much you're paying in euros. So both sides of the currency are secured and locked, and then you don't have to worry about it. You can then focus on the other things, which is the legal side of things. Potentially, if you're looking at future renovations, if we time it right for you, we could potentially save you some money, and that can go towards the renovations as well. And the main thing is that it protects against any market drops. So if you were to agree a price today, you fix in your forward contract, the market could drop significantly. Doesn't matter, you're protected and you're locked into your forward contract at that rate. So you have complete security and peace of mind that it's not going to cost you any more than you've already agreed. A couple of other options for you are called orders. So we have an order to buy and an order to call. So say again, exactly the same situation. You've agreed your price in euros, but the exchange rate isn't quite where you want it to be. Perhaps we're in a little bit of a slump in the market, and you want to target a higher rate. That's absolutely fine. So you let us know where you're targeting, and we can put a marker into the market for you. We'll try and give you a bit of guidance if you're targeting too high. We obviously ultimately we don't know how high the markets will go, but we'll use sort of historical facts and data about where we currently are, and maybe advise not to go too high on an order, but certainly we can target wherever you want to go. Now, in order to buy, you send the money up front, and when that rate is hit, we transfer the funds, and again, everything goes through smoothly. You can do that as a forward contract or as a spot again, but it does make sure that you get that top rate. And the other one is an order to call. So when that rate is achieved, we'll call you, have a chat with you, let you know obviously the rate has been achieved, and if you wanted to proceed, if you wanted to wait off further, that's absolutely fine. It doesn't lock you in if you've got an order to call. It just gives you still a little bit of flexibility. But the one thing and the most important thing to mention here on these orders is just because we're aiming at a higher rate, it doesn't mean we're going to get there. We are still fully reliant on the market doing what it needs to do to get to that higher rate. So it's a great product. It's something that can be a real asset if the market does move for you, but it can also come with risks. So as I mentioned in the forward contract example, if the rates were to drop, we can't go back to where we were when we put the order in. So it's always on that live market. So it comes with some good upside, but there is a potential risk associated with it if we don't get to that exact exchange rate. So all four of those very popular, but the most popular by a fair way is our forward contract option.
Brilliant, Paul. That's a great overview of everything that you can do. You talked a lot there about sort of contracts and planning in advance, which is great. But what would happen if a customer had booked or committed to some sort of contract with Smart, and then perhaps their purchase fell through, or they had a change in circumstances? Are they tied in there, or is there anything you can do to help people in that situation?
So as I said, we've been in the market helping customers in this situation for a very long time now. And these things do happen. It may be that you've gone through, you've agreed on the property, but there may be problems stuck in a chain. Funds might not become available in time. You may just decide, actually, no, I found a better place, or decided to cancel plans altogether. All those options are fine, and we can work with you on those. We can, if you're still looking at buying a property in the future and we've got a contract booked in for you, we can look at extending that contract and roll it forward. That's definitely an option. Or if you're looking to completely cancel, that's also absolutely fine. As I mentioned earlier, we take a 10% deposit on the forward contract. If there are any losses at all, we would let you know if you're cancelling a contract and there's a loss on it. And if there is, it would come out of the deposit. But we'd always let you know exactly how much is coming out of the deposit. We wouldn't just blindly cancel it and only send you part of the deposit back. We'd always, again, work with you as much as we can to make sure that that doesn't happen, and we can cancel the contract level. But it's something that you can, if you are in the position where you need to cancel, it's something we absolutely can work with yourself and your account manager that's booked the transfer for you. So yes, it's absolutely fine if you need to stop and cancel.
Brilliant, Paul. Thanks. That's really reassuring for our customers. And just in terms of that, kind of thinking about the safety, how do customers know their money's safe and secure with Smart? It's obviously a huge amount of money, and it might be life savings for this fantastic, exciting purchase. How do they know they're safe working with Smart?
I mean, yes, it's a really important question, and it's a question we get asked a lot. It's something that we take great pride in. We make sure that when you send funds to us, they never come straight into the Smart Currency account. They always go to a client holding account in your name. So if anything was to happen to Smart, in the unlikely event that anything was to happen to Smart while we're holding your funds, the money would be returned in full straight back to the account that sent us the money. And we're fully authorised by the FCA and governed by HMRC, so we make sure that we're a fully regulated business. My contact details are on the screen there. If you want any more details about the safety and security, we've got some great documentation that I can forward over email. So yeah, if you just email the email address that's on the screen at the moment, I'll be more than happy to send any information out to show the sort of levels that we stick to when it comes to making sure your money's safe.
That's really reassuring to know. Thank you so much, Paul. Now, we have had some questions from customers asking about different options for transferring their money. People are very used to using their bank. They're saying, well, can I use my high street bank? There's obviously the kind of explosion of different platforms like Revolut and things like that people are using at the moment. Do you have any advice or any indication how Smart would compare to those other different services?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, I've been in the market, in the industry, now for just over 10 years. So over that time, we've seen huge change, obviously, with technology advances and different providers coming into the market. But if I start with the banks, if you're going into your high street bank, so say, for example, it's NatWest, Barclays, HSBC, whoever it is, and you speak to a cashier and say, look, I need to move X amount of pounds to Italy to buy a property. So let's say it's £100,000. It's an awful lot of money, and you're sort of playing the lottery a little bit with who you speak to as a cashier, because they may have no experience in the markets. They may have no experience of if it's a good time to transfer, and typically they'll just be looking at punching a number into the computer to see what the exchange rate is, let you know how much it's going to be, and action that for you. So the service you're going to get there isn't going to be as good as you'd normally expect from a bank, because you might not be speaking to a specialist, so you might not be getting the best advice, which is where we can obviously make sure that as specialists we can really give you that guidance. Most importantly, when we're comparing to a bank, when it comes to it, for us it's the service level, but for yourself, the exchange rate and the costs associated with using a bank far higher than using ourselves, so we can be more competitive with the actual exchange rates we're offering for you. We don't have the big fees that you'd be charged from the bank as well, so it's more a cost effective way of moving your money in comparison to a bank. Moving on to the online platforms. So as I said, technology has advanced significantly, certainly over the last 4 years with currency exchange. I think the most important thing really here to compare with the platforms. I mean, the platforms, I'm not here to badmouth any other company or method of transferring money, but the online platforms are an online platform. So you are taking your own advice. There's no one to speak to. You can obviously do your research online and take an educated guess at what you're doing. But with ourselves, we'll talk you through the process. We'll hold your hand through from start to finish, and we'll give you that guidance as well. So if we feel like there's a better product available to you, we'll make that suggestion. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's entirely your decision what you go for, but we can be on hand and really guide you through the process. And at the end of the day, it's if you're looking at a property over in Italy, it's probably going to be, let's say, £100,000 plus to give you that peace of mind on large sums of money. We often find when we speak to our customers that it's just a much better process to actually speak to someone and get that guidance and give you a bit more peace of mind, rather than going onto an online platform and transferring large sums of money and essentially hoping that you've done it right. We'll take all that stress away from you and process everything for you.
That's great. I mean, it's really reassuring to know that support service is there. It's such a life-changing decision. So really helpful to understand how Smart can help. Thank you so much, Paul, for all of that advice that you've shared with us today. If there are any more questions that are coming in, we'll try and get Paul to answer those at the end. But I'm conscious of our time, and I'd like to move on to our second panelist of the day. I'd like to introduce Monica from Buckles. Monica's based in the London office of Buckles, but she sits on the Italian desk, and she's qualified in both UK and Italian law. So really, really well placed to be able to help you understand the differences in the system and how she can support you with your purchase. So welcome today, Monica. Could I ask you to start similarly with Paul, as giving us a bit of a background into the service that you provide and how you can help our customers?
Thank you, Anna. As you said, I am a dual qualified solicitor and Italian avvocato, Italian lawyer. I work for the Italian desk at Buckles Solicitors in our offices in London. We assist, we give legal assistance for UK resident individual who want to, in this case, purchase or sell a property in Italy, as well as we provide every kind of assistance in connection with Italian law for UK resident individual. So every individual which is in London or in the UK can contact us, and we will be happy to assist them with an inquiry regarding Italian law.
Brilliant. Thank you for that introduction, Monica. That's great. Now, obviously, today we've been talking about the context of viewing trips and people wanting to head out and visit property. And a lot of our customers are saying that that's something they'd like to do over the next sort of 6 months. How early in their property buying journey should they be engaging with a solicitor to help them?
So, definitely after seeing the property and after making sure that you want to purchase or that you like at least that property and you would like to buy it. It's a bit premature, for example, in my view, to appoint or to involve a professional when you go to see a property. In that stage, I think it's a bit premature. Definitely, you need to appoint a solicitor or a lawyer before you sign anything in connection with that purchase. What we usually recommend before, after you see the property, after you decide that you like the property, you like the surrounding, is to obtain a surveyor report, making sure that that property has everything in compliance with law and all the planning permissions and all the work within the property have been carried out with planning permissions and in compliance with the law, so that you have an overall view, you assess, or the surveyor will assess the overall condition of the property before signing and putting down any offer. So what I would definitely advice is that you involve a lawyer when you decide to purchase a property before sign anything in any case. If there is, for example, if a report is made by a surveyor in connection with the property and we see that something is not right, at least the vendor, the seller can rectify it so that we deal with problems from the start, from the beginning, rather than dealing with them in a second moment. That's what I would definitely advise. Yeah.
Thank you, Monica. That's very helpful. And obviously you mentioned there about the surveyor's report. Do you help clients find a surveyor and recommend any surveyors, or is that something that they would have to do independently?
No, we assist the clients from the beginning, so from the offer stage until completion. The offer, of course, involve also appointing professionals to obtain the paperwork to deal with the purchase. So we can definitely offer assistance in finding a local surveyor who can attend the property and instruct them to deal with that step. Of course, the surveyor must be local, and we assist our client also in finding someone, in contacting them, in instructing them. So yes, we assist the clients from the stage 1 to stage 3.
That's perfect. That's really helpful and reassuring to know. Thank you. Now, we've obviously talked there a lot about documents and signing paperwork and things like that. I'm assuming that a lot of the documents that customers are going to see are in Italian. Do you translate those into English for your UK-based clients?
If clients require a translation in Italian, we can definitely deal with that. What we usually do in these circumstances is that when we obtain the document, we explain the content of the document in English to our client. So sometimes a document can be also in English or in a native language, can be complicated for a person who doesn't deal with this stuff regularly. So what we do is that we explain to the client the content of the documents in their native language. If they require, for their peace of mind, a translation in English, we will be happy also to deal with it. Yes.
That's excellent. That's really helpful to know. Thank you. And in terms of the stages that you talked about there of the buying process, how long typically does it take from finding a property that you like and placing an offer on it to actually completing on the purchase and getting hold of the keys? What's the sort of typical timeline that a customer could expect?
I would say it depends. For simple, without any problem purchases, we estimate like 3 to 4 or 5 months, depends. Because sometimes what happens is that there are problems with the property. The most common problem is that works within the property have been carried out without planning permission. That property cannot be sold, and you need to obtain authorization from the town hall to obtain the right paperwork to rectify that problem within the property before being able to purchase it, or before the seller being able to sell it. So for a normal straightforward sale, I would say 3 to 5 months.
That's wonderful. That's very, very helpful to know. Thank you, Monica. Now, we've had a question in from a customer, which it ties into what you were just saying about planning permission. If they purchased a property that they wanted to do work to, they wanted to make changes, extensions, whatever, can you help them get planning permission once they've bought the property, or is that another service they would need to get?
We will need to contact the local professionals to deal with that, but we assist the client in that stage as well. Of course, if they need to carry out works within the property, the planning permission are required. We will need a local professional, so a person physically present in that area of Italy to deal with some paperwork, but from our side, we work with the client. So there will be definitely a liaising with the local professionals who will actually go there or to the Comune in person to make the request for any paperwork that is required. So we will assist our client. We will we will appoint a local professional. We will liaise with them. We will explain to the client what is going on, what must be obtained. So also, if another person, the third party, is involved, we are still there to assist our client.
That's really helpful to know. Thank you, because I know that people do find sometimes the planning process quite complicated. Yeah. So very useful to know that you're able to assist the client. Thank you. Now, I know this is a difficult question because it will depend on client circumstances, but can you give any indication what the average costs for your fees would be to help somebody to buy in Italy?
Depends. We will need to assess. As you said, it depends on the circumstances. Depends on the price of the house, of the property. Depends on the time involved. Sometimes most of the time, what we give our clients is are two options. They can appoint us and work under the fixed fee rate. So we'll assess the case, we'll assess the activities that must be carried out, and we'll assess a fixed fee for those activities. The other option is an hourly rate pricing option. We assess that there are works that we assume will be required, and we provide an estimate of the amount of time that we are going to work on that matter. So the client can choose. Of course, they have the estimate will be a lower to a higher estimate, whereas the fixed fee is one figure, which is usually higher than the hourly rate option, simply because Buckles in that case absorb the risk. So what happens when they choose, for example, fixed fees is that they accept a higher rate, but also if our activities require more work than estimated, than the one included in the fixed fee, our client is always going to pay that amount, regardless of the amount of time we're going to spend in that matter. So most of the clients choose the pricing, the fixed fee pricing option, simply because they want to know how much they are going to spend for the legal fees. Other clients say, no, I'm sure that you will take less time than what you estimated. I will take the risk. But in that case, there is the risk that we go beyond whatever has been estimated, because complication may always arise. So we always provide two options to the client. Answering to your question, I would say for straightforward, again, depends, but we're talking about 3,500 to 5,000 pounds legal fees.
Thank you, Monica. That's really, really helpful, and really helpful to understand the different pricing structures. So thank you for that. I'm conscious of our time today, and I know that you have another engagement to get to, Monica. So I'll say thank you now, and we'll wind up this section of the presentation, and we'll move on to our third and final presenter of the day, Daniel Shillito of D&G Property Advice. Welcome, Daniel. Now, Daniel's an experienced financial professional and with a real passion for property. And he's been helping with the financing and negotiating of commercial and residential property deals within Italy for a long time now. So he's really well placed to understand the whole process for you and offer his expertise and advice. So welcome, Daniel. I'd love it if you could start, as the others have, with just a bit of an explanation about D&G Property Advice and how you're able to support our listeners.
Sure. Thank you, Hannah. I appreciate that. So my background is in financial advice and planning, and also mortgages and property for some time in other countries, including the UK and Australia. And I've been here based in Italy, in Milan, since 2010. And we created D&G Property Advice around 4 or 5 years ago, really to help foreign buyers engaging with the market and buying property in Italy. We were of the opinion 4 or 5 years ago that there were many transactions that were not completing for one reason or another. People maybe became frustrated or found it difficult to complete on their Italian property purchase. Perhaps it was taking too long. Perhaps there were some barriers, whether they be language or cultural. Perhaps there were property problems that couldn't be overcome. So we decided to broaden our financial advice into property advice and assistance so that we could help people through the process from the beginning to end. And so that's what we do now. We help with negotiations, arranging finance, and arranging the other property professionals that are needed to complete a successful purchase, like the geometer who does the survey of the property, as we were just talking about before, the notary, perhaps a lawyer, and involving those professionals and coordinating them as best as possible to complete a purchase in good time. So that's essentially what we provide as a service.
Wonderful. Thank you, Daniel. That's a really helpful and comprehensive overview. In terms of viewing properties then, just thinking today about our topic around actually finding a property and viewing properties, how should customers go about starting this process? They've decided Italy's for them. Maybe they've sort of narrowed it down to an area. How do they go about this? Should they pick one estate agent? Should they speak to multiple? You know, how long should they spend kind of searching for a property? Any advice you can give on the starting their search would be really helpful.
Sure. Look, it's a very good question, and I think a lot of people can go about it in different ways, and I see many different ways to approach it. I think the first thing that I'd suggest to anybody just starting out is, first of all, decide upon the area in Italy before you even think about the agent or the property. There are so many beautiful areas in Italy. I'm not surprised that it's difficult to choose. And if you've come along and holidayed in just 2 or 3 or 4 different places, you may want to have, the desire to have a property in all of them, or you can see good things in all of them. But that will make your property purchase a little bit difficult if you're trying to cover several areas at once and compare them against each other, or even explain price differences and things like that. So I would first of all ask or encourage people to work out the specific area in which you're looking, whether it's city, whether it's on the coast, whether it's on an island, whether it's mountains, whether it's south or north, and think carefully about the infrastructure that you're looking for, when you're going there. Whether you want to live or retire in Italy compared to holiday is obviously a very different need, in my opinion, and could therefore come with a different conclusion in terms of the location that you might even look or decide on the property that you want. So that's important, because not every property has the same offering, not just in the property itself, number of bedrooms or garden or pool, this kind of thing, but the distances from facility and infrastructure, distances to the beach, etc. If you're someone that wants to retire, for example, and you are thinking about the health infrastructure, then think about those things before you work out how many kilometers you want to be from a bigger town or city where the infrastructure may be better for that particular need. So everyone is different, so it's not easy to, I don't like to promote any particular areas for sure, but once you find out what area it is that you want, there's different ways of doing it. Clearly, when you're living overseas and you're engaging with Italy from a distance, you're going to be looking at internet property listing sites. So the first thing to warn people about is that there are many sites, and you may find the same property on a number of different sites, and that's because a lot of the agents in Italy are not necessarily exclusive to particular sellers. So a seller may use several people or several agents to market their property. So don't be surprised if you find it in different places. And also many Italian owners still operate without an agent. They may be selling directly, or through a family member. That's quite possible too. So it means that there may be plenty of property on the market that you're not aware of simply by looking at particular websites. So therefore, engaging someone that can help you on the ground is obviously going to be a good idea. Coming to Italy and being here in person and looking at what you're buying and engaging with the owners is also a good idea. Clearly, a lot of property is attached to an agent, and you're going to engage with that person first when you identify a property over the internet. It is possible to engage an Italian real estate agent, however, who may look on your behalf. So not just look at properties perhaps that they are directly involved in or representing on behalf of sellers, but they may be willing to look for you within the area at other properties that may meet your needs. And so the advice there is to make sure you have a good understanding about what they can do and what they won't do, what they will charge you for their service. And if you have an agreement, of course, I think Monica would agree with me and say you should get legal advice about what that agreement says before you engage with someone like that. However, that service does exist. I think it's a little bit more informal in Italy. It's not so easy to sort of find that service. You won't see buyer's agent written everywhere, perhaps, or on the internet. But if you get involved, once you start the property search, if you ask people about this kind of service, and for example, we know some people that will provide that service in certain areas throughout Italy, so we could potentially refer people to a buyer's agent type service, and that's an alternative to looking yourself, to looking on the internet. Okay, I hope that helps.
That's really helpful, Daniel. Thank you. Really, really helpful to kind of understand a little bit more about the process, because, you know, there are the cultural differences between perhaps what we're used to experiencing here in the UK. So thank you. That's very helpful. It would be useful for our customers to understand a little bit about negotiation. You know, is there a tradition or practice in Italy that you would perhaps put an offer in under the asking price, try and negotiate on price, or is that not the sort of done thing? What's the format with that, really?
That's a really good question. Have we got 2 hours? And
sadly not, Daniel. If I could have the very abridged version, that would be great.
So I think I say that for a clear reason, and that it's not easy to cover all of the nuance of culture and negotiations in Italy in about 5 minutes. So I think the best I can do is give the listeners and viewers a couple of tips. The first one would be probably to leave some of your expectations or conceptions at the door when you come into Italy, or you start talking to owners and agents. So you may have bought property before in the UK or America or Australia or somewhere else, and you've gone through a specific process. I think the first thing to learn is that you can't necessarily expect that same process to happen in the same way at the same time period in Italy. Italy is its own definite, unique market, and to be successful, in my opinion, in buying well without too many mishaps, you need to be prepared to learn about what the culture is, what people will expect, what may or may not offend them in the way you go about things. I think that's really important. You talked about making an offer under the purchase. Sure, that happens quite often. People try to make offers under the purchase price, and some people will succeed, some people won't. There's no hard and fast rule, in my opinion, that says if you do this, 0.3% under the purchase price in all regions, that you're going to get an offer accepted. That would be just misleading, and people shouldn't think that way. So it really depends case by case. You have to engage and understand what are the owner's objectives here. You know, do they want to leave in 2 months, or actually they're happy to leave by Christmas? You know, do they want to leave you the furniture in the kitchen or not? And all these aspects are taken into account along with the price. So the price itself is not, it's too simple to focus only on that. I think you need to listen and understand the story involved with the property and what the owners want. And that's a great place to start.
Thanks, Daniel. Very helpful to get a bit of an insight into how the market works. Quick question on deposits. When a customer's offer is accepted on a property, do they pay a deposit? And if so, how much is that typically?
So the general answer is yes, and that owners expect that a deposit is forthcoming. There are different ways to engage with a property from the beginning, but essentially, as Monica would be well versed to explain, there's normally a proposta contract at the beginning where you make an offer. You can also make a letter of intent, which is an indication of your intention or your desire to buy, and indicate a potential price. But typically, the first engagement process around an offer happens with a proposta contract, and you provide the seller with a number of days or weeks to reply to your offer request. And normally within that document, there's an indication of what the deposit would be. Okay. And then in the Italian purchase process, there's often a second deposit and sometimes a third deposit when you move from the first stage to the last stage of purchasing. And those terms may be considered earlier in the process, or they may be considered at the time of the compromesso or preliminary purchase contract, which comes after the proposta. That's a very general view, but I don't think we have time to go through all the specific details of every purchase transaction, and that does vary across the country. I have to say, I've been in regions where the agent has said, unless you put a deposit down, this seller isn't going to consider the offer or sign it. And then I've been in another region where they've said, you first get the offer kind of accepted and then you can make a payment. And then when you make the payment, you don't necessarily have to make it direct to the agent or the owner either. You could make it to an independent third party like a lawyer or a notary that could hold that deposit in an escrow account until certain conditions are fulfilled. So one condition, for example, just quickly, and then I'm conscious that we'll run out of time, the condition could be that we do a building inspection, that we have a geometer go in and check out the structural integrity of the property. So that's just one potential condition that you could still introduce early in the negotiating process.
Thank you. Thanks. And for any customers that do have specific questions on that, Daniel's details are on screen. We can put you in touch, to really get your specific queries answered. One last final question before we run out of time, Daniel. When making an offer on a property, do customers need to have proof of funds, whether that's money in the bank, an agreed mortgage, anything like that? Do they need that to make the offer?
No, there's nothing. There's no particular need to show that you can complete at the beginning of a negotiation. No.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Thank you for that answer. That makes it a lot easier for our customers. That's about all we have got time for in today's session. I feel, as Daniel said, we could stay and chat for a lot longer today, but I'm conscious of the time on this gorgeous Saturday afternoon in the UK. You're going to want to be heading out and enjoying the sunshine. So thank you again to all of our panelists for taking the time to share their insights today. As I mentioned, we will send a replay link out for this session if you want to refresh your memory on anything that was said, and we'll also include the contact details of our speakers, so you'll be able to get in touch and work with them more closely. We're also going to pop a quick link up on the screen now to our Property Guides website. There's loads of buying advice guides to download, lots of information on there. We've got a particular viewing trip guide, which you may want to take a look at before you head out to Italy. So do have a look on our website, and you'll get everything you need there. Thank you again for taking the time to listen with us. Thank you to the panelists. I will leave you all now to the rest of your Saturday afternoon. And the last thing just to say is we wish you really happy and successful viewing trips and a happy move out to Italy. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.